So, conventional wisdom contends that halakha requires a quorum of 10 to do prayers that, what they call the sanctification prayers. The prayers that, it's also Devarim, Shevet Kedusha is the term. And those are the prayers that sanctify God's name. We need 10. A minyan of 10 adult Jewish men is needed in Jewish communal prayer. And those I'll list, I can list them all. I think this is all of them. Baruch, Kedusha, the repetition of the Amidah, Kaddish, Birkat HaKohanim, and Birkat HaGomel. If you don't have 10, you can't do those prayers. Also, you can't read from the Torah or the Haftorah portion. So, as you know, when we don't have a minyan, we tend to kind of have a short sermon, not short sermon, you guys have that all the time, but you have a short service. For Birkat HaMazon, which is the blessing after the meal, the Our God is included in the introductory invitation if you have a minyan. So only adult Jews can be counted in a minyan, meaning those who have reached the age of majority, 13 for boys, 12 or 13 for girls, but actually, forget the girls part. Having had a bar mitzvah is not a requirement. The age is a requirement. So if you happen to be 15 and you never had a bar mitzvah, that's okay, you can be included in the minyan. That's what the halakha says. So now the next question is where did the concept of the minyan originate? Because if it's halakha, that means that it comes from Torah, from somewhere. So I have 4 for you. First one is the story of Noah. So as you know, there were 8 people that went into the ark. Noah, his sons, and their collective wives. That's 8. But there was the presence of God as well that was on the ark. But those 9 could not save the world. The second is the story of Abraham and the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, which is today's Torah portion. Since there wasn't even 10 righteous people, God destroyed the city. So how many righteous people were there? Who knows, but it was 9 or less. Another source of the requirement of 10 men to complete a minyan, or a count, that's what minyan means, count, is when Moshe sent 12 spies to scout out the land of Canaan. 10 of them returned and issued a bad report. There's your minyan. Concluding that it was an unconquerable land. God was disappointed with their lack of emunah, or actually, he was more disappointed in their lack of faith in him, like God could not accomplish this. So he turned to Moshe and Aaron and said, how long will this evil assembly provoke the Jewish nation? So who's the evil assembly? The 10, not the congregation of Israel, the 10. So from here, it is deduced that an assembly is at least 10 men. Vayera 22:32, God says, I shall be sanctified amidst the children of Israel. Now, for those who know how to use a Gezerah Shava, I know there's another way to pronounce it, but somebody will have to tell me. That is basically an equivalence, or an expression of equivalency. One word here, one word over here, and how do they compare? So this verse is linked to Bamidbar 16:21, where it says separate yourself from amidst this assembly. So the Gezerah Shava teaches that an assembly must be present when Hashem is being sanctified. And we also get that from Megillah 23b. And yes, I looked at that, and yes, it deals with that specifically. So there are some alterations to the halakha. Bar mitzvahs and Reform and Conservative Judaism have modified the custom in cases of necessity, so that a boy nearing his bar mitzvah is sometimes counted as the 10th male member. Some Reform and Conservative shuls even allow women to be counted in the minyan as well. So as you know, in 2020 we had the pandemic. So then the rabbis discussed, well, how do we do minyan in the midst of the lockdown and where you could not assemble. Gatherings were considered unsafe. Again, I'm not commenting on whether it was or wasn't. It's just that's the reality that we had in 2020. So Jewish communities began to consider either a virtual minyan convened over Zoom or Teams or some other video conference, if that was permissible. Would that be a halakhic minyan? Ideas were floated and two new minhagim arose. The first ones, some rabbis ruled that a virtual minyan were permissible because sources that they used alluded that the men had to be able to they had to physically see each other. They did not necessarily have to be in the same space. So if you had the kind of screen where you could see everybody's face, okay, if you could count 9 men, you were the 10th one, you had minyan. The others ruled that 10 men still had to be present in the same room, even if they were all separated in the room. And then anybody who joined them in Zoom would be considered to have joined that minyan, as long as they could see those 10 men. All right. So that was. I could not find any other ruling besides those two. So if you guys happen to find one, those who were halakhically inclined, please let me know, because right now I just know of those two. So, considering the concept that it requires 10 men, we come to a great truth, and that great truth is the power of each individual Jew. So you could have 9 men who are as brilliant as Ramban, who can fulfill all the mitzvot, who understand the depths of Torah, yet they are unable. You got 9 of those guys in the same room. They're unable to accomplish a minyan together. So, add to their group the simplest of Jew, say somebody like me, and guess what? Now they have a minyan. It's because of him that they are now able to recite the parts of the prayer. So that's where the idea that every Jew is important. So, the Sefer Torah as the 10th man. Rav David Sperling, who is a halakhic, I don't know if I can call him a genius or not, but I think he is. The guy's brilliant. He addresses this and provides a number of rejected opinions. I'm going to go through the rejected opinions first. In regards to the question of a Sefer Torah as the 10th man in a minyan, yes, this does have a vague hint of a source. So here's a quote from Brachos 47b from Bavli when discussing forming a minyan for saying Zimun before Birkat HaMazon. That's the introductory paragraph. Rav Huna says 9 and the Aron Chodesh joined to be counted as 10. However, the text immediately rejects the statement and says, is the Aron a person? So this may be the source, albeit rejected, for the idea that a Sefer Torah counts towards a minyan. Regarding Zimun, Rabbeinu Alfazi from the 11th century Algeria concluded a child above the age of 9, and other scholars permitted prodigious boys older than 6. But all those children needed to understand that what they were doing was blessing God. If they did not have that concept down, they could not be included. Rabbi Yosef Karo subsequently ruled that a child can complete a quorum. Sephardim continued to follow this ruling, with most authorities permitting only a single child above 9 to finalize the minyan. Ashkenazim, however, followed the rulings of Rabbeinu Asher from Germany, Spain, that area, and he's from the 13th century. He required all members of the Zimun to be above 13. Keep in mind, this has nothing to do with the minyan required for tefillah. This just has to do with the beginning paragraph of Birkat HaMazon. So, in like manner, the Shulchan Aruch forbids including a boy less than bar mitzvah age as a 10th for a minyan. The Ramah adds that there are those who, in a time of need, can rely on a child as long as he's holding a Chumash or Sefer Torah in his hands. But the overwhelming rabbinic consensus is to not rely on this opinion, even in times of need. So to be clear, this is not halakha. The Yerushalmi says that a Minyan and a Sefer Torah, we include them for 10. This means that a minor or a Sefer Torah. I know it says and, but the commentaries make it clear that it's a minor or a Sefer Torah, just like 9 men in the Aron. The halakha does not follow Yerushalmi. Some texts of the Yerushalmi actually say a minor and a Sefer Torah, we include oto, which means him or it. This is like the custom that the minor holds a sefer, or perhaps it means that a minor may be counted among the 7 requiring aliyos. So what I mean by that is when the Yerushalmi is mentioning using a child, it's really not it's not in counting the 10, which is an alternate version of the text. But the text that is actually seems to be the best text seems to be referring actually to that one that a minor could be used to do one of the 7 aliyos, which is the 7 times we come up and read the different portions of the scroll. We only do 1 aliyos, or aliyah, I should say. Pirkei de Rav Eliezer, regarding Iber Shana, which is declaring the leap year, mentions a Sefer Torah in his halakha. It says, Rav Eliezer requires 10 for Iber Shana, and if we lack 1, we bring a Sefer Torah. But again, as you can see, it has nothing to do with the Minyan for Tefillah, which is prayer. And there's a list of people who cannot be counted in the Minyan, and I'll give you one, and that is those who deny the truth of the Torah Shabbat Peh, which is the oral Torah, which includes the Karaites. They cannot be counted in the Minyan. You guys confused?
Yeah.
Okay, well, to complicate matters, Rabbeinu Tam from the 12th century, I love Rabbeinu Tam. He contends that the cryptic conclusion of the Talmud forbids including a child in the quorum of 3, which actually is for Birkat Hamazon. So you say not the beginning, but all of it. But allows the child to join a minyan of 10. Rav Zerahai Halevi even allows 2 children to complete this minyan. However, the rove of commentators, the majority of the commentators, including Rabbeinu Asher and Joseph Caro, reject these opinions, requiring all participants to be over age 13. They further contend Rabbeinu Tam only issued this leniency in theory, but in practice he never used a minor to complete a minyan. Some Ashkenaz post-sects allow a person to use a child in urgent situations. So what's an urgent situation? I have no idea. I really don't. It never quantifies what that is. So I think that leaves it to be a minhag. That's what I'm thinking. By the way, you guys know what the difference between a halakha and minhag is? Okay, I'll deal with that later. I won't do that now. Otherwise, I'll just confuse everything. Another position allowed including a child if he held a Sefer Torah. This opinion stems from the halakhic opinion that 9 men and the Aron Chodesh combine to create a minyan, with other sages similarly contending that 2 people on Shabbos or 2 scholars learning Torah together create a zimun, so that they can do Birkat HaMazon. Again, see, 2 people and Shabbat, 2 people and a Torah scroll. And these sages suggest that objects of holiness, Shabbat, or the Sefer Torah, can themselves complete the atmosphere that allows humans to sanctify God's name. Yet in these cases, the Gemara asks, is the Aron Kodesh a person? Is the Shabbat a person? The Babylonian Talmud rejects these puzzling proposals, insisting that only humans can create the appropriate quorum. Nonetheless, a number of Ashkenazic scholars permitted this ritual. They based this practice on the parallel source in the Yerushalmi 7:2, which affirms either a Sefer Torah or a child can be used to complete the Minyan. Professor Israel Tashma contends this practice stems from the ancient Jewish mystical idea that a Torah scroll contains the divine presence within it, and therefore can create the necessary environment to sanctify God's name in prayer. This also aligns with the idea that Noah, with his extended family and the divine presence, created 9. But yet, as you know, they could not save the world. Nonetheless, the prominent Ashkenazi figures, including Rashi, dismissed this notion, with Rabbeinu Tam declaring it shtut, nonsense. In the 20th century, both Moshe Feinstein and Yaakov Bresh permitted this practice if failure to make a minyan might lead to the breakdown or the dissolution of a synagogue. Rabbi Auerbach and Ovadia Yosef forbid the practice, with Ovadia actually stating it's better that you get up and leave the synagogue to prevent the Pigel minyan from occurring. In closing, Rav David Sperling says, to be clear, the halakha remains that a Torah scroll does not count as a tenth in a minyan. So I say all this not to rock the boat, but to give us and our leadership the tools to poskin as correct as possible, while holding as true as possible to the minhag that we get from our rabbi. It's clear our community wants to do what's correct. Talking to you guys, you do. In extreme situations, the leadership of a community can consult their rabbi as to the advisability of relying on minor opinions that allow alternative methods of counting. However, we no longer have our rabbi, but we do have records of his teachings, both in AV recordings, his writings, and in our memories. We must rely on our leadership, not me, to make the correct Pesach halakha, not just here, but in every aspect of our shul life. And we also need to give them the time to consider, which means never expect instantaneous answers.